Hello and welcome to Inside Music, episode number 178. As always, I'm your host, James Shotwell, and it is great to be with you again. It's been a wild week since the last time we spoke to one another, but I hope it's been treating you well. Things have been a little ridiculous in my life, admittedly, but nothing that we need to get into here, nothing we really need to talk about. All is well, people are alive, everyone is happy, everyone is working, everyone is doing their best to get through this thing called life. And a good example of somebody who's done that very well is the guest on our show today. See that? Bringing it all together. My guest this week is none other than Alexakis, the frontman for Everclear, and somebody who has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember being really passionate about music. You know, there's this old stereotype of every teenager in the world discovering music and thinking that they are the only person to have ever discovered how powerful music is, and then they fall in love with it and they want to make it their whole life, and most of them don't end up doing that. But me and a lot of my friends are the exception. We became those people who heard an album or a few albums when they were at a very young, critical age, right before they hit their teen years or right at the start of their teen years. And then our lives changed forever, and there was no convincing us that there was anything we should do other than be a part of the music industry, because these songs, these records had made such a big impact on us that we just couldn't see life any other way. For me, one of the records that really stands out at that time is Everclear's Sparkle and Fade. I had a friend in high school. His name was Jason. He was a couple years older than me. I guess a lot of people have those friends that are a couple years older than them that kind of open their eyes to the world, and Jason did that for me. Every week or every couple of weeks, he would give me a new CDR. And for those of you born after the dawn of the new millennium, CDRs are basically burn CDs, or our versions of mixtapes before we got into the streaming era. People would burn CDs on their computer, and Jason would burn me records that he thought I would love from bands and artists that I had never heard of. And one day, he hands me this gold CDR that says Sparkle and Fade in his very bad handwriting. And I had no idea what that meant, but he told me to go home, put on my headphones, listen to the record front to back as loud as I could stand, and just let it happen. Just let it wash over me and lose myself in the world of the album. And I had no idea who it was, what I was listening to, what it was going to sound like. But at the end of that record, at the end of that time spent in my bedroom by myself listening to that album, I don't even think the lights were on, but when I got to the end of that album, my world changed. Like, the world as I knew it had shifted on its axis. I had heard this band that was not only heavy and with this great crunchy guitar tone and wonderful vocals and harmonies, but they were storytellers. They were telling stories that felt real, even though a part of me knew that they couldn't all possibly be true, but they just felt so based in reality that I just took to it. And every year that followed, I just fell more in love with that album, and I fell in love with the albums that came after it. I mean, Everclear has an amazing run of records, from Sparkle and Fade to So Much for the Afterglow to Songs from an American Movies Volume 1 and 2. And then there are the hits that obviously played on radio, especially in the 90s and early 2000s to no end, like Father of Mine, I Will Buy You a New Life, Wonderful. It's just, the list goes on and on. But right now, Alexakis is on the show to talk about something almost entirely different. On October 11th, Art is going to release Sun Songs, his debut solo album. And this is a solo album in the truest sense. Not only did Art write and record all the songs, but he played every single instrument on the album. And while some songs do bring to mind different eras of Everclear's catalog, there's a lot of other ideas at play here as well. Particularly, there are country elements and a few urban elements, and we talk about all that in this show, and I'm excited for you to hear it. But before we get there, I need to tell you one quick thing. This episode of Inside Music is brought to you by Holix, the industry standard for music promotion. If you go to holix.com today and sign up, you can get 1 free month of their amazing promotional service. And it's a service trusted by everyone from Everclear to Chance the Rapper, Blink-182, Fall Out Boy, and thousands of additional artists. So head to holix.com today. That's HAULIX.com today and check it out. Now, Art's record comes out October 11th, and right now we're going to talk about it, as well as politics and our mutual love for Bob Seger. So sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with the one, the only, Alexakis. lot. I live in the Midwest. I live in Grand Rapids. I know you were just near here not that long ago. You played a festival in Muskegon, I think, last month or earlier this month.
Yeah.
Time's kind of a mystery.
Yeah, we flew in. Yeah, we flew into Grand Rapids to go to Muskegon, actually. Yeah.
Great. And how was that? Was that a good show? I think it was like on the beach or near the beach.
It was on the beach, dude. It was the biggest crowd they ever had for that festival. And this is the third or fourth year they've done it. So it was the biggest crowd. They estimated close to 10,000 people. So that was great.
Yeah, that sounds like a good day for you. That's great.
Yeah, man. No, it was fun. Whenever I get to play music and get paid for it and it makes people happy and the promoter's happy, that's a good day. Everybody wins,
Absolutely. And yesterday was a big day for you. I know the new song came out. You had some listening parties. How was it? I mean, obviously you loved the song. I love the song, but how was it seeing everyone's reactions to the new material?
I haven't seen anything negative, nothing but people loving it. On every platform that I've looked on or management's looked on, it seems to be people loving it. I've had a few friends in the industry call me up and tell me that they dug it, and so yeah, and I haven't sent it to a bunch of people. I never do that unless people ask for it or friends. I don't send my records out. I've got friends that do that, but I just if you want to hear it, hit me up, man. I'll let you hear it. I'm excited. We're working on the video right now. Hopefully I'll have that done before release. We're trying to get it done in the next couple of weeks.
Well, that's good, man. I really enjoyed it, and I agree. I haven't seen anything negative about it, but I feel I was curious if you are somebody that actually, I guess, has a lot of concern, or do you pay attention to criticism at this point, or is that something you even concern yourself with at this point in your career?
Sure, I do. I mean, when the whole album comes out, I think you'll see a lot more criticism. I think it's hard to criticize a song about a disease, especially when the guy singing it has the disease, and there's a lot of high-profile people that have that, and just about everybody knows someone with MS, or it's becoming much more prevalent in our society. So I don't know how many critiques you're going to get from that. I heard people saying, like Art Alexakis with his typical exacting lyrics that say exactly what he's saying. And, I do write very honest. I try to write very honestly and say what I mean to say. But there's always secondary and third meanings to everything that you could take in a different way. And I build it like that with the craft as a songwriter. And I think a lot of times I don't get credit for that because people just see the simple story, the most in-your-face narrative, and they figure that that's all that's there. But whatever, that's cool.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people associate you with being a storyteller as a songwriter, and so I think too often when that happens, people do exactly what you just said. They go at like, well, it's a story, so I understand the narrative that he's saying, and therefore I get I got the whole thing, and that's so rarely the case.
Well, yeah, it is rarely the case, depending. When things seem too simple to me, I start looking to see if there's more to it. That's just how my mind works, because I think that a lot of times the brilliant stuff that people do is buried in there somewhere, and it makes the original story have more depth and breadth to it. So that's what I'm looking for in writers when I read books or stories or songs or whatever. I'm always looking for people that have talent, just given talent that you can't learn. You have to have that, but also the craft. Do the work. Do your due diligence. Do the work, and I respect that.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I ask you about a couple other songs on the record? I've had a chance to hear it, and I know that people that might listen to this will not have heard the whole album yet, but there are two songs that I just wanted to touch on, and I wondered if that'd be okay with you.
Of course.
All right. Well, on the going by the track listing, but right before we get to Hot Water Test, I really love the song Orange. That's such a good.
That's a fun song.
It's a fun
It's a
song.
fun song.
And it's very it kind of fits with what we were just talking about. It's very narrative driven, it feels like. But can you tell me a little bit about the creation of that track? There's a lot of different stuff on this album. Maybe that one hones in a little bit more closely to what people already kind of associate with you stylistically. But I just love it so much, and I would love to hear kind of where it comes from.
Really, I think it's a departure stylistically for me, but it's not autobiographical in any way, shape, or form, other than the fact that I grew up on the west side of LA and I lived in Orange County for a while. And at the time, Ronald Reagan was huge in Orange County. You know, this is in the 80s. And I saw X at in Irvine and made out with a girl I met there. You know, so I just stuff. And a friend of mine hooked up with a girl, and he wasn't from the Valley. Where is he from? He was from like Riverside. But you know, it's like I just made up this narrative, kind of from things that I experienced. But also, it's also a political poke in the eye to the right, because Orange County is blue now. It's the majority of people that vote there. There's more Democrats than Republicans for the first time in 80 years, right? And it's like so it's kind of a poke in the eye at the end where it's orange is turning blue, orange is turning blue. Yeah. So to me, it's a lot of fun. I just get to fuck around a lot. I'm telling a story about some doofus and how his wife leaves him, and you know, just the culture down there, the tattoo culture of the punk rock, you know, a lot of white people who dress like Chicanos and you know, and that's the culture I grew up in. But it seems very familiar and home-like to me, and sometimes it seems to be very alien. So that's why I wrote that song. And I just love the word and the color orange. So it's just, to me, it works on different levels, you know, and it was fun to write that song and fun to sing it. So, you know, this goes back to my axiom that I've been saying my whole life, and I hear other people say it too, is if you're playing in a rock band, you're not having fun, man. You need to get a new job, you know. I love my job.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's always that classic saying of like nothing rhymes with orange, so it seems like it gets avoided a lot in songwriting. And here you are putting it front and center.
That's a good point. I have thought about that in the past, but I didn't think about that.
I think go ahead.
I don't use the word orange in a rhyming way at all.
No.
You know?
Well, I think what makes me feel like it's something that maybe people will feel familiar to people is that it touches on, like you said, the 80s and like this. When I listen to that song, it just brings up kind of the sparkle and fade era of Everclear, where it felt so rooted in like personal stories, and it was like, oh, this is another one of those stories from that era and Art's life that I'm like, oh, I get to see behind the curtain a little more to this part. Even though it's a made up story, it just feels rooted in kind of the same influences that maybe made some of those songs come together.
Well, there's plenty of made up stories on Sparkle and Fade, dude. Queen of the Air.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but you know, there's a lot of people. I've had people argue with me. No, man, you're lying. That came from someone in your life. I go, dude, my mom's name is not Victoria, or Veronica, Virginia. That's not my mom's name. That's not. I made a story up, and I've had, you know, and that's when I don't get upset. I just laugh. I love it when people tell me, or I'll have people like yesterday. Last 3 days, I've met people and they're like, "What do you do for a living?" I'm like, "I play in a band." No, what do you do for a living? Yeah, I play in a band. I play in a band. Or what's the name of your band? Everclear. And I think I've heard of them. And I'm like, them? You're talking to me. What do you mean them? It just seems weird to me. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just freaking out on semantics, maybe.
I mean, maybe, but it is funny. But I mean, as somebody that loves wordplay as much as you do, like that's one of the things that sticks into your side when you're somebody that kind of thinks about words that much. Where you're just like, what do you mean them?
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's just that's the thing. You're a stickler for words. I'm a stickler for words to the nth degree. It's part of the craft of writing, and so so you get what I'm talking about. Anyway, what was the other song?
I mean, and I feel like I chose it in part because I feel like maybe it at least somewhat thematically ties into Orange, and the poking a little bit is obviously white people scare me. which I feel like is like almost it's begging people to mention it when they write about the album, because it's a title that you have to click on. You're like, I don't know what's happening here, but let's go in because Art's got some things to say.
Yeah, it's kind of a gimme, right?
Yeah.
If I was listening to a record, like the first time I saw the Dead Milkmen's album, they have the best titles. Left Wing Pigeons, Gotta Hear What That's About, Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's funny because I'm sitting in the car right now with a guy that's a good friend of mine that worked for me, and we've been working together for 19, 20 years, something like that. We've said that forever. We're both white guys that grew up in black neighborhoods, and nothing scares me more than white people. White people are horrifying, and we've said that for years. Everything bad, think about it. All the things I named, it's all white people. It's all white people. And it's kind of funny, but even in the song I say it's a joke that isn't funny anymore, because with the the rise of Trump and that on all his minions and all this nastiness that has come out of the last 2.5, 3 years, it's like it's not funny anymore. It's not a joke. It's not a rib poker. It's not an elbow in the ribs anymore. It's like fucking white people are scary, man.
Honestly, it made me think of Bowie's "I'm Afraid of Americans." It kind of gave me like a similar feel, where it's just like it's so obvious, and I think it shares a sentiment that a lot of people have, that they don't know how to express themselves, and you just put it so plainly, but also perfectly, where it's just like, no, they're scary. That's all there is to it.
Well, yeah. Well, it's not just Americans, as far as I'm concerned. I love that
true.
song. I wasn't thinking of it when I wrote it. It didn't come to mind, but maybe subconsciously it did. But I mean, it's not just Americans. But I am talking about American culture because that is my culture, and that's what I know. But I mean, look at what's going on in Europe, parts of Europe, and Russia, and it's scary, man. These people are frightening.
Absolutely.
Frightening.
It's a crazy time. My partner she only gets her news through me anymore. Like she can't tune into it. It's too much. So she'll just kind of be like, give me the top 3 stories of the day and try to make them not all nightmares. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can give you one.
Yeah, that's not going to totally depress you.
Yeah.
And make you so that you don't want to have sex with me.
Exactly. You understand.
I do the same thing with my wife. Fuck yeah, I understand. And I remember telling her what would happen. She goes, "So you're telling me that right before bed? Do you really think that that's going to put me in the mood? Really?" And I'm like, "Point taken.
Yep.
I've learned a lesson.
Yes.
We're not talking news tonight.
Exactly.
It's not night in the morning. That's our time. Whether it's sex or just intimacy and connecting. I don't want fuck the outside world. They can deal with that later." It's like last night. Of course, we were watching the debate, and we're watching it earlier in the day, and after we put our daughter to bed, and we went to bed, it's like, can we not talk about the debate tonight? Let's talk about it tomorrow. She's like, awesome. Let's not talk about it tonight. Because,
Perfect.
it was depressing to me. I found it depressing.
I did too. Honestly, it's one of those things where you want to watch, you need to watch, you got to be paying attention, but the whole time, it's like it's just a big bummer, and it shouldn't be, but it is.
Really, yeah, it was though. It was. I was really disappointed in Castro. I thought he went for the cheap shot, and I think it was beneath him, and I think it just. I stopped giving them money. Because I had been giving about 3 or 4 of them money to see which one I was going to really like. And really, my favorite so far, by far, is Elizabeth Warren. But she kind of didn't disappear last night, but she really didn't do she didn't do anything to make waves, for sure.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. What did you think of it?
I mean, I'm with you. I've kind of been trying to balance a few different, maybe this person, but Elizabeth Warren is also the person that I am finding myself more and more getting behind. But watching last night, I had that same feeling you did, and then seeing, I guess, the kind of the press rollout of what happened and the press talking about it. She's just not in the headlines. She's not saying the things the way she needs to in order to kind of captivate people. And it kind of bums me out because I feel like she has a lot of the best things that you could be hoping for. She just hasn't found I hate saying the term, but like the branding needed to make it connect with people in the big way that she needs.
Yeah. I'm not sure she can go the distance.
Exactly.
I love where she's going. I feel right now the only guy that can really go the distance is Biden, I think. And, I thought he was way better last night. I think he started off great and then just kind of fizzled out. I can't really blame him because it was a 3-hour fucking debate, which is retarded. Being on your feet for 3 hours, and I couldn't do that. And I mean, that's just... I think in just 10 people on stage is too many people, man.
Yeah.
Just too many. It's just, I wish they would have done 2 nights of 5 people. It would have been way more. I think we would have got way more out of it,
Well, sometimes I think go ahead.
I was just going to say, and shorter. Much shorter.
Much shorter.
What were you going to say?
Well, I feel like the big problem right now is what you hit on is the 10 people. Like we're wasting way too much time whittling this group of people down to like 3 or 4 that we can really get to know and hear from and weigh the pros and cons of each. And I understand needing a bunch to get to the 4 primary ones, but you watch those 10 and it's like going to a local show that has 7 bands on it. It's too many. I need you to focus your efforts a little bit because you're spreading everyone too thin.
Absolutely. People think, well, you can put 80 minutes of music on a CD. I go, so what? It's not, I'm sorry. The best albums in the world were about under 40 minutes. The best albums that anyone grew up with were between 35 and 40 minutes. And I made a record that was 11 minutes, 11 songs, 38 and a half minutes. And that's it. And when it's over, hopefully you want to listen to it again. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing. It's like, God, I want to hear that again. And same thing with songs. A good song, you want to hear it again. When you first hear it, you're like, yeah, I want to hear that again. And I think people have lost track of that, and they're trying to make up for better with more, and that's never worked for me.
I mean, that's my biggest frustration with creativity in general these days is that the emphasis is return to quantity over quality in almost every field. Yeah. There's more movies, Absolutely. There's more songs on albums, there's more artists, it's more everything, and it's like more has never been the answer.
But it's not better.
It's never better.
Yeah. Even if I don't like it, I'll listen to a really good record and go, okay, man, that's not my thing, but fuck yeah, they threw down. I get it. They put a lot of work and heart and mind and creativity into that. Awesome. You know, but chances are, if they put that much work into it and it's that creative and good, I'm gonna like it. I don't care what kind of genre it is. You know, I just like these days. I'm just thirsty and hungry for talent. Give me talent. Give me something unique. Give me something that sounds like you, whoever you are. And it's hard to find.
It is. It is, and I feel like the irony being that there are more artists than ever making more music than ever, and then finding something that feels authentic or even has replay value is increasingly difficult. And it's just like, I don't understand how that happens.
It's because it's not driven by. I mean, money's always been a part of it. I get it. It's a business. We all need money to live on, but now it's that corporate and way of thinking of like the end return far outweighs whatever you have to put into it. So put in as little as possible and get the biggest return. It's like the Shark Tank mentality, and I fucking hate it. I disagree with it in business. I disagree with it in commerce. I disagree with it in art. I disagree with it in anything creative. I just disagree with that whole mindset. And unfortunately, it seems like I'm in the minority.
Well, it's you and me both. And as far as music is concerned, I always look at it from I obsess over the business end of things over the long term rather than the short term. Like I spent a lot of this year covering a lot of legendary acts on big tours. I've covered Bob Seger twice, and I did the Kiss tour and stuff like that. And whether or not their whole catalogs are great, they write these songs that have this life that like you hear them 4 decades later, and you're like, this song is still good. It's still well constructed. It's still something you want to listen to. And when I hear a lot of stuff today, it feels so created for immediate satisfaction and gratification and return. I'm like, no one's going to care in 5 years. And that drives me crazy. I'm like, you should be trying to write something quality.
5 years?
6
5
months. You're right.
5 months.
I gave it way too much credit.
No, you're being too kind. I mean, Bob Seger, you mentioned Bob Seger. Bob Seger is one of my favorite artists of all time. I get into him. This last year was my Bob Seger year in the last 5-6 years, and I went back and bought all his records on iTunes, and Back to Beautiful Loser, which is produced for Ship, but has great songs on it, and just watching the evolution of it up through Fire Lake and even the album after that. I mean, great fucking songs, dude. And just vision and flavor. Flavor. No one has flavor anymore. No one has their own thing. They all sound like the next guy or the gal that happened a month ago. That's what they sound like. And it's just, I don't even listen anymore. It's just, I don't listen to contemporary radio. I try to. My wife does, because the kids get in the car. My daughter and her friends want to hear what's going on, but even they've gotten away from it. They're starting to get into, like, my daughter's favorite band right now is Rage Against the Machine.
Great.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. You're welcome. We're building a better person, man. I mean,
exactly.
It's just like Rage, and she loves Joni Mitchell, and just, and yes, me and my wife are definitely influencing her. That's what parents do. But hopefully you're raising them up right? You're teaching them good things. Like, this is what talent is. This is good. I took my daughter to see, we played the Kaboo Festival last year, and she was on the side of the stage with me, and next to my friend Jimmy from Pennywise with his daughter, and we're all watching Blondie from the side of the stage and just losing our minds. And the girls are freaking out on Debbie Harry, and Well, they should. She's 73 and she's still singing like a champ. But I'm watching Clem Burt play drums, and he's in his 70s. And he's kicking ass, dude, on any motherfucker. I dare anyone to get up there and try to match chops with that guy. And it was just like, it was awesome.
You're raising them right. Good job.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
No, you should. Well, I know that you're a busy guy. I don't want to keep you for too long. I probably could, especially now that we've fallen down this. I could definitely I could spend an hour talking to you about Bob Seger alone. But I feel like we should plug the album a little bit because it's coming out. It's October 11th. Solo tour after that, and I know you have a handful of dates here. I'm planning to make the drive from Grand Rapids down to Evanston to see you on the 8th when everything kicks off. I know you have what?
Well,
go ahead.
We're playing. It was Detroit, but now it got moved to Flint. We're playing Flint, and I think it's in December.
Okay.
Like early December. So that might be. Yeah, that might be a better drive for you than Evanston.
Are you doing? I guess it's probably the Machine Shop in Flint, something like that.
It's a Machine Shop. Yeah, is that a cool club?
It's a cool club. It's it's one of those venues where like everyone has played there in rock over the years, and the walls are littered in posters, and it still feels like a dirty rock club.
Oh, it's like the Blind Pig.
Yeah, and like people buy shirts of the venue because they love it so much. You know, one of those places. I always love to see that.
Cool. Yeah, we're playing the Grog Shop in Cleveland, which is another one of those that's been around forever and ever and ever. And we played back in the 90s. I think we played the Machine Shop back in the 90s, to be honest with you.
Probably.
That sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
So,
I'll be there. It's a really cool room. Great for packed shows with people singing along. And I feel like this record and obviously the catalog is made for that as well. So you'll be good.
Yeah. Well, I want to let you know we got more dates in November and December, and then we're gonna have more dates in January. And then after that, I'll be back full time with Everclear.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Can I ask you one last thing before I let you go?
Sure.
I get obsessed with solo records, and so I always want to know this question. For you, when you're working on material like for this record, I don't know how long you've been working on the material for this album. What is it about a song that lets you know this is an Everclear song versus this is something I want to keep for myself?
Wow, that's a really good question, and I really don't know. I guess I'd have to think about it. There definitely is a thing where like this is not an Everclear song. This is not an Everclear. And all these songs don't feel like Everclear songs to me. Some are very personal, like the Hot Water Test. Not that I haven't done personal songs with Everclear, but that song just seemed like the right thing to do on this record. And at first I just had it acoustic without drums or instruments or background vocals. And then I'm like, I hear it more aggressive, still acoustic, but more aggressive. So then I put the other instruments on it. I played all the instruments, right?
Absolutely.
That's to me what makes it a solo record. That's what makes it a solo record. It's not great, but it gets the job done, I think. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be more about the songs. The vocals are the loudest I've ever mixed a record ever. That you can actually hear the vocals, hear what I'm saying. I'm definitely not channeling Michael Stipe like I usually do, hiding behind the music.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I never put together that comparison before, but it's a very good one that makes a lot of sense now that you said it out loud.
What, Michael Stipe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was.
Thought of that.
Critics in the '80s were always talking about how you couldn't hear his words, and he's like, that's because my words are not as important as the sound of my voice, which is another instrument, and I want it to blend in with the other instruments, which is cool. Which is when you listen to it in that context, it's going to open up a whole different picture of REM for you. because that's really what it is. Because, I mean, on the first two records, who the fuck knows what Michael's saying, man? Man, I mean, I love those records, but wow, I mean, it's hard to really figure out what the fuck he's talking about.
Oh, now I'm going to go back today. You've just determined everything I listen to after we get off this call. So there goes 2 hours of my life. Thank you for that.
Well, thanks to you, we're going to be listening to some Bob Seger in just about 10 minutes or 5 minutes.
That's a good plan. It's never a bad idea. You might not be in the mood, but then something comes on and you're just like roll me away, and you're like, I guess I'm just listening to Bob Seger for the rest of the day now.
All right, favorite song, real quick. Favorite song off of Stranger in Town.
Oh my gosh, that's too tough. You can't just go that way. I'll tell you this instead.
Yeah.
I think that of all of his albums, as much as I love different records, Stranger in Town being maybe my favorite record studio album, I don't think that anything holds a candle to like the energy of Live Bullet. And I've spent my entire life looking for another live album that like creates that kind of magic, especially on vinyl, the original pressings. Live Bullet is just unmatched.
I agree. There's one other live album that rivals that, and it's Live Who Live It Leads.
Okay.
And that's the blueprint of all live records from the 70s. They all, if you ask Bob in interviews in Circus and Cream back in the day, he would talk about Live It Leads. So did Gene Simmons. Listen to that record. Not the new one with all the outtakes and shit. Just listen to the record Live It Leads the way it came out in 1968 or 69.
All right.
I mean, I think they're basically creating heavy metal.
Okay. I just saw The Who, and I sat next to a couple who told me that they had seen them. It was their 22nd time seeing The Who, and they recounted every time they had seen them since like 1970 through the present day to me, and like their whole lives were shaped by like The Who and seeing them in concert, and that was like their cornerstone for like when they first met, when they got married, when they had their kids, so on and so forth. I love those kind of stories.
Well, I'm not that big of a Who fan. I love a lot of The Who, but Live It Leads is such a fucking great record.
Absolutely. Well, I'll listen to that today as well. And to answer your Stranger in Town question, now that I thought about it, because it's basically all hits. But when I just saw Bob in Detroit last, he did the famous Final Scene, which I had never seen him perform before, and it really drove home how great that song is and how
what song?
The famous Final Scene, the last track on the record, his piano ballad.
Oh, okay.
It's I mean, I go all over the place. I mean, you have the obvious Hollywood Nights, still the same. They're all big tracks. I like the deep cut, like Feel Like a Number. That's a fun song. But the famous Final Scene oddly feels so perfect now that he's at the end of the road. It's like, 41 years ago, he wrote the perfect song for his farewell in 2019.
I love Feel Like a Number. I loved it when it was a radio song back in the day. Still to this day, I love it. And I don't know why no one's ever done a punk rock version of that song. That would be such a great punk rock song. But one of my favorite songs that no one ever talks about is Sunspot Baby off the album before it. What's it? Night Moves. And
Yes.
I just fucking love that song. It's got humor. I love the guitar. I love the honky-tonk piano. I love his voice. How, like, just the way the inflection he gets on it. It's just a fun, great rock and roll song.
Absolutely. I mean, recently I've been obsessed. I went all the way back because I saw that Quentin Tarantino movie and they used Ramblin' Gamblin' Man in like the first 20 minutes. And it sent me down this whole rabbit hole where I was like, I can't believe that's the first song on his first studio album. And there are so many artists that never wrote a song as good as that record, as good as that one song.
Are you? Yeah, how old was he? Like 18?
Yeah.
17, 18?
Yes, because that's like 69.
And Glenn Frey was like 15 or 16 singing backup.
Yeah, and they're just ripping it. It's a 2.5 minute ripper.
Fuck yeah, that song's awesome, dude. We get off the phone, we're listening to Bob Seger. Yes, we are.
Perfect.
I have to drive to the other end of LA, and we're like a third of the way.
All right,
So
you have
we're
plenty of
fucking
time.
rocking today. Yes, sir.
All right, man. Well,
All
thank
right,
you so
man.
much for this.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.